Would you be able to create a song likewise modern music producer just using Cubase Pro with no third-party plugins or VST, and of course make it sound professional? If not, you are watching the right video. Hello my friend, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Create Like a Pro.
Trouble man, I'm not involved in your addiction, cause you are the knife blade on which I like to make and host.
It has been very interesting working on a song, a lot of challenges to face, so better you get yourself free for the next 30 minutes. In this episode, we'll craft a new brand sound with a custom interface using Helium 7. Did you ever try the MIDI plugin? We'll make some tests with the Auto LFO. Do you need a toolbox synth? Let's make it with the flags in Helium Sonic. How to manage multiple similar sounds to make them sound better in your mix. Let's get started! As you all know, I like to organize my project in a way to make my workflow quicker. I created a marker track to organize the song structure, folder multiple drum tracks, and create some group tracks for a better management of the mix. Let's have a look at the drum kit. I'm gonna use Groove Agent SE5. We got 2 kicks, 2 snare drums, 2 hi-hats, a vinyl noise, and a crash, organized by color and output. Let's focus on the kick. A kick sound is made of 3 parts: the attack, technically called the transient, the body, and the tail. That means that we can combine up to 3 different sounds to shape a single kick sound. In my example, I use the transient of the second kick and body and tail of the first kick. Look how the sound changes as I tweak the attack point, the fade and the volume as well. Same technique for the snare. I got the main snare and this tail that gives a touch of sparkling. Check the difference. That's very funny, isn't it? You can apply this process to any percussion or sound you want. You know, sky's the limit, just unleash your imagination. Let's process. For the kick, I used one of my favorite plugins, the Squasher. I set the low band on 100 Hz, no compression, input 8 dBs, and I let the plugin do the job. Now I want to boost the mid and high frequencies with quarter fuzz. But while I'm doing so, let me explain this. I put an EQ on the master and cut some low and high frequencies to simulate a cheaper speaker, as for example mobile speakers. You probably noticed that we can barely hear the kick sound. And one of the reasons is because the kick doesn't contain enough mid or high harmonics. Check the differences. Of course, it is essential that the starting sound contains sufficient information in order to be further processed. Next in the chain, we got a gentle maximizer that slightly compressed the peaks and raised the average level. For the snare, I cut some low frequencies, slightly enhanced the body, and compressed the peak on 214 Hz. Then a compressor. Let's check the before and after. On the hi-hat, I added a little distortion to enhance the mid-range. Cut the frequencies lower than 200 Hz and added a touch of sparkles. Once all the process is done, I can add this track to a group track for a better management of the mix. I try to set the kick close to the 0 line. the snare slightly down, and some dBs less the hi-hat. Let's move to the bass. I want to have fun today and create my own VST instrument using Helium 7. But don't worry, I'm gonna make it very easy. This is the main interface. I want to create a new wavetable based synth. This is where I build and manipulate the sound. For the oscillator 1, I select Flux, Complex, PWM square. As you can see, the waveform is moving through the wavetable according to its start point, speed and direction. I multiply and detune it a bit to create a richer sound, and one octave down. I excluded the oscillator 1 for a while. For the oscillator 2, I select Complex, Synth XO Sync. I set the position to 24. This time I'm going to block the initial position by setting the value to 0. Multi 3 and the tune 7. And I set the random direction at 50, so that every time I press a key on my keyboard, the waveform will spread randomly on the wavetable. The higher is the value, the more will be the random range. Then I go to the sub tab. Let me exclude this guy for a while. Level 100 and sub pulse narrow. Let's turn everything on. I want to make my bass mono and add some glide effects, so I move to the sound tab, voice management, on, and thick mono. Then I go back to the zone tab, voice control, and click on glide, any, and set the time. Nice. Let's make this sound more interesting. I go back to the wavetable and lock it by clicking here. I want to add a filter and assign the cutoff to an LFO controlled by the modulation wheel. So, move to the filter tab, select bitrate, resonance 40, distortion 70, click on the cutoff knob, and plus sign LFO1, set the amount to 100 and uncheck polarity. In this way, the value will wave just in the range above or below the cutoff value. Check this out. Let's work on the LFO. I select the LFO tab, increase the frequency, I want to control the LFO value, so I'm gonna assign it to the quick control 2. And now I want it to be controlled by the modulation wheel. I'm gonna name it Shake It. I set the minimum value to 0. Let's move on the envelope tab. I want to control the attack point as well to make it straight or softer. So, I sync to host tempo, set the grid to 1/8, and move the attack here. Let's assign it to the quick control one. Right-click on the grid, wavetable envelope attack, assign to quick control, my patch name quick control, number 1. Now, do not touch anything but right-click again and set maximum. Means that this is the maximum amount allowed by this quick control. Let's check it out. It's likewise having a sidechain compressor at the tip of your fingers. Very nice. We can add some effects, a reverb for example. So I move on the right window, you can see some items here. I click on the program bus and the FX icon will appear. I choose reverb, reference. Then I move on the sound tab, select the preset LA Studio A, time 50, mix 25. Done. I feel creative today, so I want to set up my own graphic interface and make this instrument available for Hellion Sonic, free for any Cubase user. So, click on this icon and set the macro page extended. Don't get mad, I'm gonna make it very simple. Create new macro page. Here you can customize your VST interface. You can load knobs, sliders and many other items, and also your personal background image. And so I did because I'm very talented in drawing. Okay, was kidding. Let's rewind. If you remember, we assigned 2 quick control, so I'm gonna load 2 graphic knobs. I go here, knobs folder, and drag and drop. I can add a label and test it here in the macro page. I can either choose a different item from other libraries. Let's try additional controls, knobs. Oh, I like this one. Alt click and drag to copy and type a name. Now I want to add the main label, so right click here, create label. I want to use a different font, so I go here in resources, duplicate the font, set the size and the color. I go for red. It looks aggressive, I like it. I'm gonna name it Earthquake. I select the font I just created and align it to the center. Okay, looks nice, but as you can see, the knobs don't work at all. We must connect them. So here, in the parameters list, I look up for quick control. Drag and drop. Boom, connected, very easy. Let's check it. To export it for Hellion Sonic, right-click on the instrument name, export program as VST preset, and tick as Hellion Sonic layer and verify to get the right compatibility. Now the preset is ready to be loaded in Hellion Sonic. Let's try it out. You can find it in the description below along with the Cubase project file. I want to make some automation, like this. Amazing! Let's process. I use Squasher, boosting the low and mid-low range. A touch of saturation of mid-high band with quadraphase. And the vintage compressor with a pretty punchy settings. And last, I remove some low frequencies from the side, helping so the bass to stay in the center. Okay, next we got an electric bass, the Precision Flatwound preset from a Hellion Sonic, that works in a way to enrich the color of the synth bass and also to create a variation between the verse and the refrain. Let's have a deeper look. See how the ghost notes make their job, adding more rhythm to the bass line. Therefore here I simulated a legato transition, taking advantage of the pitch snap and grid function. It's very easy to handle edits like this. Let's boost the sound. First I use Quasher enhancing the low and high range. Then I use Quadrafuzz to get a more aggressive sound. The band 2 gives more body, where the band 3 and 4 enhance the highest note. Let's focus for a moment on the mid frequencies. I'm going to turn the same EQ we used earlier on the drum bass to simulate the mobile speakers. It's very balanced and we can clearly hear any instruments. Generally speaking, a bass sound, whatever is a kick or electric or synth bass, is not made just of bass frequencies, and this is the proof. Steal the streak and use it wisely on your next production. Next in the chain we got a compressor to increase the average level. I like to hear all the frets and strings noises, cause they make the sound even more realistic. As long as we have two basses playing together in the verse and the refrain, we have to be careful. Let's take a look. I'm gonna overlap these two instruments. We can notice that 80 Hz is a critical frequency, so we have to make a choice. And so I did, using the sidechain band compressor feature of frequency 2. Good job! I never considered to build a sound using Flux in Alien Sonic, but this time I gave it a shot and this is the result. Pretty funny, isn't it? I created an initial preset so I can start over anytime. Let's have a look at the interface. On the top bar we got two oscillators with a multi and a formant, sub and noise, the modulation matrix, the voice control for mono, glide and pitch, and the arpeggiator. We can combine up to 4 layers and add some effects as well. On the bottom part we got the filter section and the amplifier envelope, the envelope 3 and the LFO section with 2 oscillators. Let's craft the sound. For the oscillator 1 I select vowels, vocal filter AEI. For the oscillator 2 I select complex, yeah girl. Now I activate the multi. I move to the multi section, you see the knobs are changed, and make some tweaks. Let's add some movement. I go to the modulation tab. I'm gonna connect the LFO1 to the wavetable position and the LFO2 to the multi-spread on both oscillators. I set opposite depth. Now I move on the LFO tab. For the LFOA, I select sample and hold 2, sync and 1/8. For the LFOB, frequency 0.5. Pretty nice, but the magic happens when I do this. I go to Insert and select Legacy H3 Toolbox. Set the rate to 0, depth max, and mix 100%. A little reverb, I select Reverence, Music Academy A, time 60, size 60. I want to take control over the vowel knob to make each note sings a different word, getting so a talking vocoder effects. So, right click and quick control to modulation wheel. Now I can write my automation. I can play it in real time, or draw it manually, or even copy the note values and pass it on the modulation. But you know, I like to think out of the box, so I'm gonna show you the smartest way to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the most underrated Cubase feature, the MIDI plugins. I move to the MIDI plugins and select Auto LFO. I wanted to control the modulation that corresponds to the CC1. Select Random Waveform. I want the loop to be completed every 2 measures. Control change number 1 that corresponds to the modulation. Density low, all value range. Let's check it out. Let the plugin do the dirty job. That's cool, isn't it? For the lead synth, I use Retrolog 2. For the oscillator 1, I select Multi, number 2.8, the tune 7. A touch of glide on legato notes. Glide finger time 1. Then I move to the FX tab and I add a touch of delay and a reverb. Now I want the sound goes left to right in loop, so I'm gonna assign the source, the LFO1, to the destination, the pen pot. Wave square. Shape 50% to get a perfect square. And sync it to the tempo. Done. Next, the short synth. It works in a way to support the main vocal line as a bouncing echo. It's very easy to craft. Multi, number of voice 5.2, the tune 11. Then I want to add a little tremolo, so I assign the LFO1 to the pitch, just drag and drop. If I want the LFO to affect the global pitch, I can simply modify the destination in the matrix, like that. A touch of depth. Then I move to the filter section, select AP, and lower the cutoff a bit. I increase the release a little bit. Then I move to the effects tab, a little reverb. Done. Next, the soft pad. For the oscillator 1, I select Multi, number 5.2, the tune 0.5. For the oscillator 2, I go for sync, so shape 1. I lower the cutoff a bit. I want the LFO to control the cutoff, so click and drag. And add a clip distortion and a touch of resonance. I want the LFO to retrig every time I press a note. I want a very soft morphing. Then I go to the Effect tab, a touch of ensemble effects. And the reverb. I want to enhance some mid and high frequencies. And increase the stereo image by mirroring some frequencies. We got 2 more pets from Helen Sonic. These 3 guys plays at the same time, so it's very important to give each one their space in the mix. What I'm gonna do is to isolate a specific range on each sound. This is one of the possible scenarios. I isolated and enhanced a specific frequency for each instrument in order to get more definition. Of course, this is just an example. Now, all we have to do is to apply this concept to our sound. And this is the result. Now each sound got its own space, and that's exactly what I want. Well done! Time for a final ride.
Trouble man, I'm not involved in your addiction, 'cause you are the knife blade on which I like to walk naked and most that sexy little blushing baby that will make you cry. We played it safe, you stayed in your lane, but now I'm with you, breaking all those useless rules. Out there, no game, you led me astray. Hold my hand, don't play romance, don't fly away. I'll not be petrified, I will never look into your eyes. All those flowers were lies, falling from the sky to your grave. Trouble man.
Well done, guys! I'm happy to share this session with you, and I'm pretty sure that from now on you will create like a pro. I see you next. Ciao!